It's now been 13 years since that infamous car crash involving Dan and Catherine Andrews and a young cyclist in Melbourne. The police investigation at the time supported the Andrews account of events that the cyclist, Ryan Mullerman, had run into their vehicle. Earlier this month, the Herald Sun reported that Ryan had checked himself into a treatment centre in December to get help with psychological and other health issues, with his father saying he has never really recovered. Ryan's currently engaged in defamation action against the Andrews, who have always denied any wrongdoing. There has been ongoing interest in this case. It has never gone away. And there's now a new true crime podcast called Bike Boy that investigates the actual incident. It's over 6 episodes. I've listened to it. I love it. It's already had 200,000 downloads in just a few short weeks. It features former Senior Constable Scott Hanley, who has identified 35 procedural errors in his own investigation of the incident. These include the fact that the Andrews were not breath tested and they were allowed to drive away in the car from the scene. Joining me now is the host of the podcast, Rowan Wynn. Welcome, Rowan.
Thank you, Peter.
As I said, I've listened to it. I love it. 200,000 other Australians love it too.
Yes.
In this report from a former police officer who was working in that vicinity on the day,
yes.
I mean, the circumstances there are in itself extraordinary. He has identified about 35 places in that sequence of events where police did not follow normal procedure.
Yeah, it's extraordinary.
Take me through the top line ones there.
Well, the amazing thing is what they didn't do. There's so many things they should have done that they just didn't do. You know, they didn't close off the scene. They didn't take photographs. They didn't take measurements. They didn't breathalyse the people involved in the car, who were inside the car rather. They also didn't stop him from taking the car away. And it had a smashed windscreen and a flat tyre. You know, they didn't take a statement from Ryan. They still to this day have never taken a statement from Ryan, the kid who was almost killed. They've only ever taken statements from Kath and Dan. The only 2 statements they've got, but the entire crash come from Kath and Dan. And interestingly, we've gone back with the investigation team and found a whole bunch of witnesses who were there on the day, who spoke to the police, who wanted to make their points and tell them what really happened in their view. Not a single statement's been taken.
That I find staggering too, because a couple of the people that you interviewed in the podcast either witnessed the immediate aftermath, saw what was happening in relation to the young man on the ground, made some comments, and these are obviously allegations because they're untested by the Andrews, but made allegations about what Daniel Andrews and his wife Catherine did in the immediate aftermath as well. None of this has been collated by the police. None of this has been tested either by police investigators or indeed a court of law. Correct.
And Scott was the person who was originally called out. Scott Hanley was called out to the crash and then turned away. And so he's come back sort of all these years later on to help the family as a private investigator and gone through the evidence. And he's just been blown away by it, as have we all, as we go through it all.
And police officers that I've spoken to also say the removal of the vehicle is extraordinary because that all occurred at the time that Ryan Mullerman was being airlifted to hospital in a critical condition. And of course, if he had died as a result of this accident, it would have been manslaughter, culpable driving. Sort of gravity.
Within 30 days, it would have been part of the road toll, and they would have been off to the coroner's court, and the coroner would have said, well, what did you do at the crash site? So I think there was some very nervous people after the crash because none of that stuff had been done. And the only photos that were taken of the vehicle were taken after Andrews had driven the car back to the beach house they were renting in Ridley Street there, down in Blairgowrie, and there's just 2 very sort of grainy photos that were taken by one of the officers that were never meant to see the light of day, I suspect.
One of the other things I find interesting too, that there was a significant passage of time, 6.5 minutes or something, between the collision, and these again are allegations, between the collision and the ambulance being called, and that it's alleged Daniel Andrews also made a series of other calls in and around the aftermath of an accident where the kid's lying on the ground to his own staff, including his chief of staff, who has a very interesting history of his own.
He does. Well, the calls to Chris Riley and also to Brett Curran, I think, are quite interesting. And they're the ones that the police investigators that are working for the family are most concerned about, because they're saying, why are you involving senior police and why are you doing things like trying to get a new windscreen while Ryan's still lying on the road, dying, trying to fight for his life?
Hang on, explain that to my viewers.
So we've now got emails and phone records that show that whilst Ryan is still on the road, yet to be put into the ambulance, they're actually on the phone. Andrew's on the phone to Chris Riley, and then Chris Riley tries to get through the insurers, the Victorian government insurers, a new windscreen. He's told he can't have one, so he brings a windscreen to O'Brien. Now, this is while Ryan is still lying on the road fighting for his life, which I think is extraordinary.
This is not Daniel Andrews, of course. This is his staff are doing this, but...
Having spoken to Daniel Andrews.
Correct. That in itself is extraordinary, that's the priority.
Yeah. What are they thinking about? Are they thinking about the kid who's fighting for his life? Or are they thinking about what this looks like if people see it?
And his Chief of Staff, Brett Curran, where did he end up?
Well, he's now an Assistant Commissioner. So he went back to he was with the police force. He left and was Andrews' Chief of Staff at the time of the crash. He subsequently went back to Victoria Police and got a promotion to Assistant Commissioner. Make of that what you will.
Where's the case up to now?
The defamation case. So it's been delayed. It's a matter of record that it's been delayed. I can't really discuss the reasons why, but that'll come out in the court in February. There's a hearing in mid-February, I think, in relation to that, but it has been delayed for a couple of weeks. Will
you come back and talk to us in mid-February?
Sure.
And will there be a second series in this podcast?
Well, actually, since we did the podcast, it's had, as I said, 208,000, I think, from a few minutes ago, I just checked, which is amazing. We didn't expect anything like that, of course, but people have really jumped on the story and are fascinated by it. And since then, we've had other people come forward with additional information, so we are considering a series 2.
As I said, I think justice will come, whether justice will be in Ryan's favour or not, but certainly there'll be justice in that this, I think, will end up in a court of law with the scrutiny it's never had. Rowan, congratulations. I think you're doing the state a service here.
Thanks, Peter. Appreciate it.
And the Ryan Muirleman family there. There you go. Details on the screen about the podcast. Go to wherever you get your podcasts. Do not miss it. I loved it, as I said. Worth listening to.